welcome, Jedi and anyone else watching this, as I'm sure many of my friends will tune into this that are not Jedi to get an idea of what happened during the storm. This video is going to be part sermon, part telling of the survival of the storm and what we went through, and part, I suppose, informational to give you a better understanding of the path and what it means to be a Jedi in the middle of a crisis like this when you are in the middle, not coming to render aid afterwards, not coming from the outside. Although the things that we discuss in this, as a Jedi, you would be able to take these things to that and be a better Jedi for it. Obviously, my voice is not what it was. I have been coughing heavily. I have a virus, as well as having suffered heat sickness or possibly heat stroke at one point. So, it's been rough, and I'm not going to be as loud and bombastic as you're used to. So let me say, the initial impact of the storm, what that was like as a Jedi. We gathered to our shelter in place. My family, I have two wives, Kristen and Helen, and they were scared and nervous. We had our animals packed into a doorway with us, the safest spot in the house, kind of an arch area where there are no windows. We were kind of barricaded in there as best we could be. We waited for the worst of it to hit. The winds are a scary sound. And the sound of limbs crashing to the ground and things like that, the initial impact, the first layers, it's a little unnerving for most people. For me, what I found is that as a Jedi, my job was to focus on being the calm in that moment, being a calm presence for everyone else. Now, my wife is on the Jedi path now as a Jedi apprentice, but not apprenticed under me or anyone else. She is learning from me, but I'm not teaching her in a lesson format. The reason for that is that with a husband and wife, it's impractical to teach, do this lesson, give me a report. And the lesson format sucks anyway. It wasn't used in the original Legends continuity. And honestly, getting book reports, I have no patience or time for it myself. It's not really how I teach. But she was focusing on her calm. Kristen is not trained in those arts and areas. It's not something she has to draw to in that way. We're both focusing on the calm. We're both reciting the code as the initial heavy impacts begin. I start to reach out and feel the force and draw on its strength as the winds increase, as this goes from having dropped to a category 2, and I'm trying to siphon energy from the storm. I'm trying to draw strength from the force while I do this. Wait, were you ever told that you can't draw strength from the force on something like this? You can't pull from the natural phenomena around you? Were you told that's impossible? Were you lied to? Because I'm telling you, you can do that. You were lied to if you were told otherwise. You touch the power of the storm itself. You feel the majesty and the power of the force. All of it. You feel the grandness. You feel beyond the storm. And you feel the calm outside of it and the calm within the eye. You feel the majesty of the life that is surviving, even as life is being destroyed. You feel the intensity of those winds. Were you told that this is beyond you? Were you lied to? Maybe. Depending on where you're at, who you are, and what you've learned, and where you're learning from, you may have been lied to that this is beyond you. That you can't touch the Force. That it's not real. Or that it's just some idea and that you can't define it. I'm sorry if you were lied to. There were no prayers from me. I wore this. It's a symbol of being a Jedi, and a certain very select few have these. I wore this. That's because I'm Norse. You'll notice I keep one inside my shirt and one out. while I do this. Being Norse for me means that I recognize that the faces of the gods, the faces of the Force, are just faces of the Force as I am. They're people, they're things. They're not the wholeness of the Force, the completeness of the Force. They are not the vast grandness that is the all. As the tree limbs crashed and pounded, the winds shook the ground itself, I found center and peace. Well, I had some fear, but that fear also had a core drilled in it, and other cores being drilled into it by reciting the code, by reciting mantras of the Jedi. There is no emotion. There is peace. I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me. Reciting these mantras, I rooted in the Force and became even more solid for those around me. As others began to panic, I was calm and focused. I was what I needed to be. I often tell people, when you deal with me person to person, you're dealing with me in my social mode. You're dealing with me being a social person, engaging social training and social techniques to be lovable and kind and to express who I am inside to you in that way. But in the middle of a hurricane, with the winds buffeting us, I become someone else. I utilize the Force fully. I become all of what it means to be a Jedi. Which doesn't mean I'm less of a Jedi those other times. It's the recognition that sometimes you have a job to do as a Jedi. And that means being the calm center for everyone else. Wait a minute. Were you told that in situations like this, that was impossible? That you can't do that? That might be beyond you? You can't learn how? I am sorry that you were lied to. I am sorry that you were taught that you have a limitation there that you will never overcome. I'm going to tell you different right now. You've been lied to if you believe you can't overcome that limit. You can. It takes time. It takes training. It takes dedication and effort to become a Jedi. Yes, it does. I'm sorry that you've been lied to. Now we come to the part I'm sure the title of this video brought you for. Facing death. As I sit there, a Jedi Master, and I've been given that title a long time ago by many people, I knew I was at the right place at the right time. Sitting next to my wife, a Jedi apprentice, I had a moment of pure clarity before the tornado touched down, as I heard the whistle in the air. And it's an interesting sound, I assure you. I thought, today may be the day. 41 is a grand old life to live. Our ancestors didn't make it past their 30s, a lot of them. I didn't have panic. I had a calm steadiness. I knew I was where I needed to be, doing what I needed to do to make sure everyone was okay. And if I died today, my other apprentice, further north of me, within driving distance, who is nearly a Jedi Knight himself. I would say he is a Jedi Knight, but he has one step left to take. Maybe this video will show him that faith and he will understand that as well. I knew that any training that he needed, anything that was left to be done, would be taken care of. I knew my other apprentice far further north, who is not a Jedi, because he has seen what our community is like. and does not want to be associated with our name. Whatever training remains for him, it would be taken care of. That the people I've trusted and made connections with through the Force that guided me to those people, that guided me to those bonds, would also guide them and guide these people past my death. That I am one small part of the vast whole. But in that means I am also part of the vast whole. I am the wholeness, and then I am the single point. I knew that what I started with these videos would continue on. That I wouldn't need to do this video if I died that day. Someone else would do it for me. I knew that my fight would not be over just because of my death. That is faith in the Force. Were you told it's impossible to have that? And you have to have another religion? That you have to have other gods or other things to fill that void? If you're called to something, be called to it. But if you're not called to the Force, then you've been lied to. And I'm sorry for that. I should have done something while you were being lied to. But I'm here now. And this is where we get to the tornado. As I'm reaching out, I feel in the Force this mass of condensed destructive energy, and I know the feeling. I am familiar with Force work and storms beyond most others. It is sadly because of my youth and expertise of mine. At 150 feet or so, it touched down in my yard. A picture should be on the screen by this point, or here around. Only one force on Earth splits trees like that. I felt it as it touched down, and I reached out, and I touched the core of it. And I could feel the force in it. And I could feel it all around me. I could feel it in the wind. I could feel it in the life of every person and animal that was counting on me. I could feel it in the life of every person in the city who I was trying to protect by draining the power of this. It started as a Category 4. By the time it hit my town, it was a Category 2. I have been told we have had no fatalities in this little town, and that is miraculous. I suppose a miracle is one word for it. I reached out into that, and I drew on all of the force, and I pushed upward and guided it to go away instead of coming in the direction it was, which would have been my home. The eye of the storm came after this. But let me ask you first, were you told that's impossible? Were you told you cannot use the force to do anything? Maybe not send away a tornado. But were you told you can't do it to do anything, to even try? You know, we say do or do not, there is no try. You know why we say that? Because you do to a certain degree of success. Trying allows an excuse. Were you told you could not do? Were you lied to? I think you were lied to. I think you were told the force is an idea. Something in here and in here. What is? It is. But it's also out there. And it's in here. And it's even in the virus that's in my system right now. It's in the air moving around me, in the life of every animal in my home, in the life of the squirrels we saved after this was done. It's everywhere. Well, squirrel, we'll get to that in a minute. The eye of the storm is an amazing calm. And I reached out into that and I recharged myself for the next wave. The back end of the eye, so that you know, is less intense than the front a lot of times. And that was the case here. We took a moment to stretch our legs. We did not leave the house. We knew better than that. We knew better than that. Faith in the Force is good. It's necessary. It's essential. The Jedi Code says you should have knowledge over ignorance, so you should know what not to do. Faith in the Force does not mean running out into the eye of the hurricane and waiting for the next set of winds, yelling, "Come take me, big boy." But because some people are so afraid that someone will do that, they don't teach the Force. If you have not been being taught the Force to get to this point, to the eye of the storm, if you believe you would have melted down and broke, if you believe you would have had nothing you could have done, then you should demand your teachers teach you more. And if they can't, you should demand they learn more and become good enough as Jedi to teach you. I found my calm in the eye of the storm. Do I really look like I'm angry? Do I look like I'm really that intense? This is theatrics to help you understand how important it is. This is not where I really am right now. The eye of the storm came and went. The next wave hit. We weathered it. And when it passed completely, when we were given the all clear, we returned our animals to where their normal places in the homes are. Let them out of the cages, the ones that had to be caged. My cats were so thankful. So were my chickens to be back in their spots. And my dogs were happy to have a cage to themselves again. And I walked out into the aftermath, the devastation. And I seen the proof of what I'd done with the tornado. And I seen the majesty of the Force in its calm aftermath. And I was moved by its vast power. The Force is more than any god and any combination of gods. And being a Jedi requires knowing that. I'm not going to take the time to preamble what I mean by Jedi at this point. If you don't know, I've done a whole video series on it to get you here. As you can tell, I still have a virus. We lost power for 5 days. We got our generator on day 3 at the end. The heat overcame me and I got heat sickness as well. And a mild case of heat stroke. Mild because I have a knowledge and awareness of the Force and use that to offset some of the symptoms. Were you told that's beyond you as well? Were you lied to again? Were you told you can't use the Force? That you shouldn't learn? You shouldn't have any skill in it? Were you told that that's a later lesson? Even though in the Jedi Legends series, the Academy trilogy in particular, Luke starts teaching his students. Why do I bring that up? Because that's what I had for entertainment. For my 5 days of suffering and sweating and trying to find a way to stay cool. But the Force is also making connections with other people. I had the advantage of very close friends and very close loved ones and neighbors who helped aid us, who helped us find a generator and helped us keep our heads straight when the aftermath finally started to become overwhelming. Because I'm good, but I have trouble fighting 103-degree fever in 90-degree weather, even with the Force. But I did. I got to where I can talk to you about it now. Pardon me. With the generator set up, with some of the trees cleared thanks to a lovely, lovely woman who was once a nun, who's a neighbor of ours, and who helps rehabilitate ex-convicts who are non-violent offenders. With their help, we were able to clear our dog run. The only damage we had to our home, as we focused on using the force to protect it, the only damage was debris. And I think a slight crack to a light on the back tail light that doesn't even keep it from functioning. A lot of people came off a lot worse. Some people lost cars. Some people lost homes. And given the level of devastation, the fact that no one died initially shows how much of the protections and workings we were doing with the force in the various ways, me through the direct methods, my wife using still a lot of the old pagan ways, which I use those as well. I use those more for my business and for when I choose to worship my gods. You don't have to stop being these other things to be a Jedi, but to be a Jedi, you cannot replace part of it with something else. With the generator hooked up, that's when the heat exhaustion and everything finally took me. My temperature must have shot to 103 or higher. I was so hot I felt cold, and I wound up covering up inside the one air-conditioned room. I meditated and used healing techniques to stay well enough until my wife, who had less than 1 hour sleep every day for the past 3 days of this, could wake up at 6 o'clock. When she did, I told her how bad I was. She felt me. She was scared from that. She medicated me, iced me down, and my fever broke quickly. How did I know I would make it to there? Because I have faith in the Force. I have faced death twice in a week. I am sure many people will hope I have been humbled by that experience, and I have. I recognize how much greater and vaster the Force is than I am now. I am humbled by its majesty. I am in all of its sheer power. But I am more rooted in my path and more firm in my conviction than ever. Power was returned on the 5th day, and it was lost about 8 hours later. We got back to normalcy. I made my post on normalcy, and the power went out. We're sitting there watching Deep Space Nine. That's our family ritual. And my wife yells, "No!" And I very calmly go, "Well, I expected this. Could happen again. Now we take the time to gather up all the resources we still have on hand. We reconnect the generator. We start it back up. We get a good night's sleep. Power will be back on sometime tomorrow, most likely." And it was. We're now back at the point where I call stability with the power, where I am certain to a degree of stability that any outage will be a short one now. We lost internet for several days during this, off and on. So I've not been posting the way I usually do. And I'm also recovering from this. This was a massive exertion of energy and self, of will, of dedication, and of faith. With the final restoration of power, I walked around the yard. I looked at how nature began to retake nature. Vines that I was trying to cut through on day one have withered, disconnected from their source, and are now easily removed from brush and limbs are easy to take away. Comparatively, at least. We have traveled to get supplies a number of times and looked over the destruction, but also what has survived. And the majesty of the Force touches me yet again. So I'm going to ask you a question at the end of this video, and the reply is not one you need to give me. Well, several questions. Do you have faith in the Force? Or is it reserved for something else? Are you a Jedi? Or something else first? And beyond all of that, if you are a Jedi, or want to be a Jedi, and are something else, and are trying to be a Jedi, are the people teaching you, helping you reach that point? Or are you just being given homework all the time? Writing essays non-stop. No training in the Force, no deeper connection. Are you a Jedi? Or are you just a philosopher role-playing? Someone said to me once, well, other people could easily say what you do is role-playing. You have no proof. My being here is the proof. I am a Jedi. I am one with the Force. I am the eye of the storm. I am the calm within a hurricane. And I hope you find the power to become a Jedi as well if you're not. And if you are, if you're on the path and this means something to you, I hope you have the strength of will and conviction to push the people that are teaching, to teach what it means to be a Jedi completely and how to use the Force. And that faith in the Force is important. And if you've made it to this point and it has fallen on deaf ears, then even to you, to all of you, to anyone who made it through to here, let me say this. I hope that the Force guides and protects you. May it do so. May the Force guide and protect you. When I say that, that's not just me signing off. That is a definitive blessing. That is my blessing to people when I say goodbye. May the Force guide and protect you. So as I say goodbye, may the Force guide and protect you.